What's up everybody, Nick here. Welcome back to Resident Evil 4 on the Xbox One. This is the most recent remaster, and this is my professional difficulty walkthrough, and we are moving on to Chapter 2, Part 2, which actually contains one of the hardest sequences in the game, which is when, I don't even know what to call it, but it's like where you get into a cabin and you just have to, it's basically like the village section in the initial part of the game where you just have to survive for a certain amount of time, except instead of being in this wide open village where you have a lot of room to maneuver, you're in a very, very small and compact cabin where you have little to no room to maneuver. So at the start here, instead of wasting all your ammo on these enemies, just shoot this cart and it will row down and it will kill pretty much all of the enemies, save for maybe one or two of them. Those two will then proceed to charge you up the hill, so just, you know, standard method, knife them in the leg and then, or shoot them in the leg and then knife them while they're still lying on the ground, nothing to it. And so real quick, I kind of want to ask you guys a question. Remember too that we have now been introduced to the Las Plagas parasite when it takes over the human body and it basically becomes a second enemy. So if you are knifing them, be careful. If their head explodes while you're knifing them, that's a good indicator that a Las Plagas parasite is about to erupt from their head. And so that's kind of your warning to get back and give yourself some breathing room so that you can shoot him. But anyway, so I said in the last video that even though this is my favorite game of all time, there's that I can still recognize some of its flaws. And one of the flaws I feel like is most obvious is a huge plot hole. So from what you gather from the cutscenes with Sadler and from the letters that you found throughout the game, it sounds like their plan was to kidnap the president's daughter, inject her with the parasite so that they could control her, and then send her back to the United States, where no one would know that she was under their control, but she really was. And so now we're in this case where both Ashley and Leon have been injected with the parasite, which means that, you know, if given enough time, they'll both be under Sadler's control. So here's my question. Why would Sadler, in the cutscene in the last video, why would Sadler tell them all this? If he really wanted his plan to work, why wouldn't he just pretend like he's trying to stop them and basically stage everything, like make it look like he's trying to capture them, but in reality he would let them escape and let them get back to America, because then they get back to America, they resume their normal lives, but they're under his control, and then they become like sleeper cells that he can snap into action at any moment. Instead, he basically tells them his entire plan, and for the rest of the game, he keeps trying to capture us. Like, he throws everything he has at us, and I just don't really get that. The only explanation that I could think of was Sadler needs us to stay here until he has full control over us. So in other words, the parasite is, like right now, the parasite is slowly growing inside of both of us. And eventually it will reach a point where it takes control of our body. And so my only thought is that Sadler has to wait for that to happen, and then once that happens, he can tell the parasite what to do once it gets back to America. So I don't know. That's the only way I could think of to kind of counter that hole in the plot. If you have a different idea, or if you know for sure what it is, then feel free to leave a comment below, because that's always been one of the biggest things that kind of made me think about this game's plot. So now we're going to come back to the regular village here, and we have to run up this path, but the problem is a couple of the Ganados are going to get in our way. Hopefully you can do this cleaner than I was able to. I kind of took a lot of damage. But what you're going to want to do first is just kill the first 2 or 3 Ganados that run towards you in the center of the thing here. But then you can quickly see I got pretty heavily attacked, and they actually got a hit in on Ashley. So when that happens, once they start to really gang up on you, that's when you're probably going to want to use a flash grenade, and then while they're all stunned, run up this hill here. Watch out for those bear traps, and then at the top of this hill there's going to be a couple more enemies to worry about, so as soon as you can, pop them in the leg so that they'll fall over, and then just run to the end of this section and get through the door. This is a pretty tough spot. Had I used my flash grenade earlier, I wouldn't have taken all that damage. So that damage I took is basically just me being stupid. But you know, hopefully you can learn from the mistake there. But I would definitely recommend against standing your ground there and trying to kill every enemy. You might be able to scavenge a little bit, but the thing is, later on in this video, we're going to be coming to what I call another oh shit moment, which is like a really tough part in the game. And this one actually happens to be like a pretty notorious section for Resident Evil fans. So you're going to want to try to save as much ammo as you can for that last section. And so that's kind of why I recommend against standing your ground in the village and taking out every enemy. But now you're going to see we come back to another familiar location, which is this farm. As always, you're going to want to take the opportunity to pull off a free headshot, but then 2 or 3 of them are going, once you pull off that first shot, 2 or 3 of them are going to start running at you. As you know by now, 2 or 3 aren't that big, isn't that big of a deal for us, so just, you know, standard method. But one thing you're going to want to try to do is stay back here, because if you stay back here, there's still 2 Ganados that are standing on top of that little platform, and if you were to go up any farther, they would they would start attacking you, and they would jump down and try to hurt you. But if you stay back at a safe distance, they'll stay exactly where they are. And then you can see here, once you clear out the area, you can pull out your rifle and then get another 1 or 2 easy headshots. So you can see one's right there, and then directly to the right there's another one standing on top of that platform. And unfortunately, one of them's probably going to hatch a parasite, so take care of that as quickly as you can too. And then this is actually the first location that I died in, because you'll notice how at the start I told Ashley to hide in that dumpster. The first time I played it, I forgot that you could do that, and I got rushed by a couple enemies. And one of them turned out to have a parasite that I wasn't prepared for, and I ended up that's how I ended up getting my first death. So I actually kind of called her out a bit early. You can actually keep her in that dumpster for this entire section until you know that the place is clear. I don't know why I was just getting a little like impatient with this part, since I guess it was because I had already died. I died once on this part, and this was where I had my first death in the game, so I was kind of a little pissed off that I ruined my no-death playthrough, and so I wasn't thinking 100% clearly. But you can see right there, that one's pretty much always going to have a parasite attached to it, and that's the parasite that ended up killing me. So you can stand in this window here, but you can see how far that parasite can reach, and I think right here it almost killed me. And so don't stand that close to the window. I got really lucky there, because if that parasite had hit Ashley, I would have lost, because she doesn't have as much health as me, and so she would have died from that attack, and I would have had to do this section again. So just kind of give yourself some distance. Honestly, the only reason I'm using the pistol to take out this parasite here is because I'm trying to conserve all of my stronger ammo for what's to come later in this chapter, or in this level. But ideally, the pistol is actually like one of the worst weapons you could use against the parasites. Really, at this point in the game, once you've had an opportunity to buy better weapons, the pistol's only good purpose is when you have 1 or 2 enemies to worry about, and you can shoot them in the leg and knife them. But obviously, that parasite that I just took down, that's kind of the game's way of countering that strategy, because that parasite has a blade on the end of it, and it has such a far attack span, or attack range, that if you try to shoot it in the leg and run up and knife it, you're just going to get killed, because that thing can still hack and slash away while the guy is lying on the ground. But anyway, you're going to have one more enemy to worry about. And like I said here, this is where the pistol is its strongest, when you can just shoot the enemy in the leg and then run up and knife them. But really, when there's a lot of enemies to worry about and things like that, the pistol is virtually useless, unless it's your last resort. So for some reason, I spoke last time about how pointless of a character Ashley is. For some reason, she can't even use a ladder by herself. We had to catch her while she jumped down from that thing, even though there's a ladder right there. And that's just kind of another visual on why this character is so annoying and pointless, really. But yeah, so you're gonna boost her over the door here, and then you can carry on to the second oh shit moment in the game, which is the cabin defense section. But before we do that, before you cross the bridge, talk to this merchant here, sell any valuable things you have. Try to buy health, because you're probably going to need it in the next section. But otherwise, just, you know, if you haven't already, try to upgrade some of your weapons. But if not, you can see I'm kind of low on money, so I decided to save it. Then you're going to cross the bridge and trigger a cutscene, and I'll see you in the cabin.
Leon, I have some bad news.
I'd rather not hear it.
Well, I'm afraid I have to tell you anyway. We've lost contact with the chopper. Someone must have shot it down, though we can't determine who.
Great.
We're prepping another chopper for you. Meanwhile, I want you to head towards the extraction point.
Got it.
What are we gonna do, Leon?
Hate to say it, but we're sandwiched all right. Quick, in that cabin!
Leon! Small world, eh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
How rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing. Who are you?
Oh, excuse me, Your Highness. Perhaps the young lady might want to introduce herself first before asking someone his name.
Her name's Ashley Graham, the president's daughter.
Is she... well, you know...
Don't worry. She's cool.
Never mind. There's supposed to be some kind of obvious symptom before you turn into one of them anyway.
Look!
Ashley, upstairs!
Okay, it's game time.
Alright guys, so here we go. This is the cabin defense section. It's one of the most notorious parts of this game. It's really difficult. Hopefully so far, if you've been listening to my advice throughout the walkthrough, you've saved as many grenades as you could up to this point, and you've also tried to stock up on shotgun ammo and TMP ammo. So right off the bat, what you want to do is push these shelves in front of all three windows, and because what happens here is, just like in the beginning of the game in the village, you are not expected to kill every enemy here. Rather, you're more expected to just survive, and it turns out you have to survive for about 6 minutes, which is a pretty long time. On the first floor, you can find a yellow herb and a red herb, so pick those up while you still have time, and combine a super herb in your inventory, and that way you can wait until you get really low in health, and then you can activate that to gain back full health. But for the first part here, I'm basically just going to stand here, and as soon as one of these shelves break, I'm going to try to shoot the enemies out of the window. So the enemies will try to crawl through the window, and if you shoot them while they're trying to hop through the window, they'll actually fall back and take a slight amount of damage. But you can see just how fast they are. Like, there's so much you have to worry about here that it's pretty much impossible to make that a lasting strategy. Eventually, the enemies are going to get in, and once they get in, I'm not going to waste any time. I'm actually just going to run straight upstairs because, in my opinion, this is the easiest spot to be in. So up here, you can find a frag grenade, you can find a flash grenade, and then I think you can also find another grenade on this table here. And so now the enemies are going to start running up here, and I'm basically going to stand with my back to this wall, and I'm just going to start shooting the enemies. Now, the good thing about this location is that for the time being, you don't have to worry about any enemies coming through the windows. Eventually, you'll have to worry about that because they'll have ladders and they'll be able to crawl through the windows. But for the time being, their only way to get to you is up the staircase. And so that means we can let them all kind of conglomerate at the top of the staircase, and we can throw a grenade at them all, we can hit them with a shotgun blast, we can do a lot of things. And so you see right here, if you ever get overwhelmed, like there's a lot of enemies that are kind of blocking your way, a good approach is to use the flash grenade, and that's because that will stun everybody in the room, and it will give you an opportunity to distance yourself, and in that time where they're kind of distracted, or not distracted, but in that time where they're stunned, you can throw an incendiary grenade at them and light everyone on fire. You can pop some shotgun blasts into them, anything like that. And so you see right here, there's a big group of enemies at the top of this staircase that are all attacking Lewis. I think that he can actually die if you were to just not take a single shot and let him do everything. I think he can actually die, so you don't want that to happen. So if you see him in trouble, do what I did and shoot a shotgun in there, or throw a grenade in there, or anything like that. But now you saw that the enemies are going to start coming through the window here. So you know, give yourself some distance, give yourself some breathing room, throw another flash grenade, and now what we're pretty much going to do is run around and shoot all of and we're going to push down all of these ladders. So eventually you'll clear out this top floor here. And the enemies will, at least for the most part, they're going to stop coming from the staircase, and most of them are going to be coming from the windows. And believe it or not, this is when things actually get a bit easier. So hopefully you still have some grenades in your inventory, but you can see here, what I'm doing is I'm standing here. Any enemy that tries to come through the window in front of me, I'm going to shoot them out of the window, and they're going to fall back down to the ground and take a lot of damage. And then what I'm going to do is momentarily I'm going to turn around and push this ladder down. Then I'm going to do another quick turn and start shooting. And you can see how this strategy is pretty good, because I'm able to shoot the enemies in front of me while still being close enough to push down the ladder behind me, and then I'm still in a location where even if the enemies come from the staircase, there's a bit of distance between myself and them to where you know, I have a little bit of time to get my bearings and pop a few shots in them. You know, if you get some breathing room like you see me have right here, feel free to run around and grab anything that you got from the downed enemies, but be careful. Like, this enemy just got in, and if I had been paying more, if I had been quicker with that, he would not have gotten in, and that would have been one less enemy to worry about. Eventually what's going to happen is the enemies are going to start coming from another window, which is on the left side of me now. And so once that happens, that's when you really have to start paying attention, trying to run around and push all these ladders down. So I'm gonna focus on pushing down these two, and then I'm gonna turn around and make sure no enemies are trying to crawl through that window over there. So you see, again, I'm gonna push this ladder down. Then I'm going to turn around and push down the one that I was standing next to, and then I'm going to do a final turnaround and make sure no one's crawling through this window at the far end of the room. And if you have time, shoot them out of the window so that you can do some extra damage. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, try to save as many grenades as you can, because those will really help you, as you saw they did right there. Shotgun ammo is your best bet here, because it's the strongest gun, and because of the tight quarters in this part, the enemies have a tendency to group together, and so just one shotgun blast can do a lot of damage to numerous enemies. I have some breathing room here, so that's why I'm running around and shooting the enemies out of the windows and knocking down all the ladders. And then with that being said, you just got to survive for a little bit longer. It starts to get pretty hectic. If you really have to, you can run back downstairs, but really you should be able to survive the rest of this with grenades, shotgun blasts, and pushing down ladders. And that's it for this level, guys. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you get the chance, and I'll see you in the next video.
Looks like they're backing off.
So, what do we do now?
The bridge I crossed to get here's out, so I guess we have no choice but to keep moving.
I forgot something. You guys go on ahead.
Lewis,